In the apocalypse, I leaned on my boyfriend's indulgence so much that I kept sending him out to look for food. Every time. Again and again. And when he came back loaded down with supplies one more time, a screen of floating comments suddenly appeared in front of my eyes. This side character is seriously useless. Lazy, spoiled, and dumb. There are zombies everywhere outside, and she's still making the male lead go fetch food for her? Except isn't the male lead the zombie king? He wipes the blood off himself every single time before he comes inside, all because this girl is a clean freak. The female lead is the only one whose psychic ability can tame the zombie king. As for the male lead and this side character, they end up as crippled zombies rotting in a sewer. Zombie king. The words hit me so hard my hands went numb. I locked the bedroom door so fast I nearly broke the latch, then crawled straight under the bed, curling into myself and shaking so hard my teeth chattered. Outside the door, Ethan started knocking. Not pounding. Knocking. Soft, pitiful, careful. Sienna. His voice was already thick with tears. Please open the door. I'll go out again tomorrow and find you chips, okay? Sour cream and onion if that's what you want. Just please open the door. I covered my ears, but the floating comments kept scrolling anyway. She locked him out because he didn't find her chips. I'm dead. Girl, it's the apocalypse. You still care about chips? He risked his life running 3 blocks to find her instant noodles, and she threw a fit because it wasn't the right flavor. Outside, Ethan's voice grew even softer. I put everything by the door, he said. You don't have to open it right now. But don't go hungry, okay? I can go back out and find the chips tomorrow. My throat tightened so badly I could barely breathe. Half an hour ago, I had been sitting on the bed in a perfect mood, ready to open a snack, when my vision blurred and those comments appeared. They said I was a useless side character. Said I only dragged Ethan down. Said he was the zombie king. Said I would end up a broken zombie in a sewer. I stared at those words for so long my scalp went cold. 6 months earlier, the world had begun ending in small ways. First, the dog next door started barking at empty air for hours at a time. Then it bit its owner. Then the owner started acting wrong too. By the time I understood what was happening, the street below my apartment was already full of things that used to be people. I had just agreed to go meet Ethan's parents before everything fell apart. The day before he was supposed to take me, I opened my door and almost became lunch for a zombie right there in the hallway. Ethan saved me. At the time, he was just my neighbor. Tall, clean-cut, quiet. The kind of guy who looked expensive without trying. We used to run into each other by the elevator. He'd smile. I'd pretend to be checking my phone. Then the power went out one night, and I got desperate enough to knock on his door for help. That was how it started. He knew how to fix breakers. He could cook. He had the patience of a saint. I was the kind of woman who could burn instant noodles and somehow ruin boiled water. He fed me for months before he finally confessed. Sienna, he'd said, standing in his kitchen with his ears red, what if I cooked for you every day for the rest of my life? At the time, it had felt like the most romantic thing anyone had ever said to me. Then the world ended. Ethan told me he had access to a secure villa outside the city and took me there to wait for rescue. That was when I realized he came from money. The house was huge. The pantry kept filling up. And somehow, no matter how dangerous the world became, he always came back alive. Unhurt. Clean. With my favorite noodles, canned ham, bottled water, and sometimes chips. I had never questioned it. But the comments had. They said he had been bitten at the start of the apocalypse. Said he became something more dangerous than human. Said once the real female lead appeared and used her psychic power to control him, they'd build a new world where humans and zombies coexisted. A world far greater than this one. Not a world where he wasted his time on a moody girl who whined about snacks. I should have noticed. Why were there never zombies around the villa? Why did he always come back without a scratch? Why did he only watch me eat and never touch his own food? I had thought he was eating outside before he came home. Now my stomach twisted. Outside my door, the knocking stopped. Silence. I lay under the bed for another full minute before crawling out on trembling hands and knees. I crept to the door and flattened myself against the floor, peeking through the crack. A tear-filled eye was staring right back at me. I screamed and fell backward. The door pushed open. Ethan rushed in and dropped to his knees in front of me, pulling me into his arms before I could scramble away. He was crying so hard it would have been ridiculous in any other situation. Sienna, I'm sorry, he babbled. You can yell at me or hit me, but don't skip dinner, okay? Please don't starve yourself. He rubbed his face against mine and kissed my cheek. My whole body locked up. No kissing. He froze, then looked wounded in a way only Ethan could manage. What if I find the chips first? I stared at him. He looked pale, yes. But he'd always been pale. He looked soft, clingy, heartbreakingly pretty. Nothing about him matched the blood-soaked monster king from the comments in my head. There were supposed to be 2 kinds of zombies outside now. The low-level ones, mindless and hungry. And the high-level ones, almost human, except crueler, unable to resist biting people when instinct took over. But Ethan had slept next to me for months. Held me. Kissed my forehead. Curled around me every night. He had never once bitten me. Maybe the comments were wrong. Maybe they had to be. I don't want chips anymore, I whispered. He blinked. Then what do you want? I'll go get it. My mouth went dry. I want to leave. He stared at me. Then his whole face tightened in panic. Leave? Why? It isn't safe outside. I can protect you, Sienna. I promise. The comments floated across my vision again. All she knows how to do is threaten to leave. Spoiled and dramatic. Why does the male lead even like her this much? Because she acts cute, obviously. I looked at Ethan's frightened face and felt my chest hurt. I want to find other survivors, I said. Other humans. He went quiet for 1 second. Then he nodded. If that's what you want, he said softly, I'll go with you. Just like that. No argument. No guilt. No trying to trap me there. He turned and started packing immediately. Noodles. Water. Canned meat. Extra clothes for me. A blanket because I got cold easily. Medicine. Flashlights. Batteries. The bag he packed for himself was tiny. He kept murmuring under his breath while he worked. You hate the cold, you'll need thicker socks, and if we can't find somewhere safe to sleep. I walked up behind him and wrapped my arms around his waist. My eyes stung. Forget it, I whispered. I'm not going. He went absolutely still. Then he turned around with red-rimmed eyes and looked at me like I had handed him the sun. I'll protect you, he said hoarsely. I really will. And just like that, something in me settled. So, what if he was a zombie? He had never hurt me. If I left him, I'd probably die even faster. And if I was ever going to get bitten by a zombie, wasn't it better if it was him? At least then, I thought wildly, I'd know he loved me. Once I made peace with that, I lifted my chin and moved my face closer to his. Then kiss me. He stared. Then his arms locked around me so tightly I squeaked. The comments went insane. Look at this shameless side character seducing the male lead. I ignored them. Seduce? He was my boyfriend. If some destined female lead ever really showed up and Ethan fell in love with her instead, then I'd leave. But until then, he was mine. That night, I climbed into his lap on the bed and hooked a finger under his chin. Ethan, I asked quietly, if I turn into a zombie one day, will you leave me? His throat worked. Never. His voice came out rough. Even if you turn into a zombie, I'll still stay with you. He swallowed and looked at me like I was something holy and dangerous all at once. We'll be a zombie couple, he murmured. We can bite people together. And search for chips together. I shoved his shoulder. Then I threaded my fingers into his hair and whispered against his mouth, same for you. Even if you turn into a zombie, I won't leave you either. His eyes turned red instantly. The next thing I knew, he had me pinned beneath him, trembling like I had given him the whole world. The next morning, I was still buried in blankets when movement flashed across the security monitor downstairs. Ethan was the one who saw it first. He frowned at the screen. 3 people, he said. I sat up and looked. 2 men and 1 woman. The woman had a high ponytail, dirt on her face, and the kind of beauty that was hard to hide even under exhaustion. The 2 men flanked her protectively, scanning the yard with guns drawn. The comments exploded the second I saw her. She's here. The female lead is here. That's the male lead's white moonlight. His one true love. They only broke up because of a misunderstanding. He still hates her, but you know what they say, there's no hate without love. My heart dropped. The girl looked up toward the camera and called out, hello? We don't mean any harm. We were just passing through and hoped we might shelter here for a little while. One of the men beside her muttered, Maya, why aren't there any zombies around here at all? Does this place have some kind of advanced defense system? Ethan's face went cold in a way I had almost never seen. We're not letting you in, he said into the intercom. The woman, Maya, hesitated, then asked carefully, how many people are inside? She was quiet for a beat before trying again. If letting us in isn't possible, could we at least stay in the yard until the zombies outside move on? We'll leave after that. Then she closed her eyes. Ethan suddenly grabbed his head. His body swayed. My pulse jumped. Outside, Maya went pale too and had to brace one hand on the wall. A moment later, she lowered her voice and said to the 2 men beside her, there's a zombie inside. She clearly didn't know there were 3 cameras in the yard. Every word came through the speakers. Ethan turned toward me at once, almost instinctively. I pretended I hadn't heard anything. The comments, naturally, had no such restraint. Why won't he open the door? He obviously still loves the female lead. Back then, he almost died because of her. The scars on his wrist are still there. He's clenching his fists. He's definitely holding himself back. Tonight is going to be their big, emotional reunion scene. I looked down. Ethan's hands really had curled into fists at his sides. The conversation outside continued. One of us could sneak in after dark, one of the men said. I saw the guns on their backs and felt a thread of fear pull tight inside me. If they really wanted in, could we stop them? Could Ethan? I didn't actually know how strong a zombie king was. Or whether zombie kings could stop bullets. That night, Ethan and I sat downstairs eating noodles while the smell filled the whole house. A knock came at the door. Maya's voice drifted through the wood. Could you spare some food? We lost our supplies. Ethan calmly put another piece of sausage in my bowl without even looking up. No. The comments nearly burst into flames. The male lead is holding a grudge. Wow. He'd rather feed the side character than give food to the female lead. For the record, the female lead only accepted the breakup money because her mother was sick. He's acting tough now, but later he'll be crawling back to win her over. Outside, one of the men laughed. Petty much. Another said, who cares? There's a zombie in there anyway. Once they need us, they'll be begging. Then Maya spoke again. There's a zombie in your house. I can help you deal with it. No need, Ethan and I said at the exact same time. He turned colder. There are no zombies in here. Fine, Maya said after a pause. Silence again. I must have started drifting off, because I had leaned against Ethan's shoulder with my eyes half closed when he suddenly straightened. There's movement. The lock clicked. Someone had picked it. The door swung open. Maya and the 2 men stood there in the entryway. The second she saw Ethan, all the color drained from her face. Then she froze. Ethan, she whispered. How is it you? I thought. One of the men blurted, there are only 2 people here. Where's the zombie? Maya, did you sense wrong? The comment shrieked. The male lead is so cruel. Do you know how cold it gets at night in the apocalypse? Is he going to let the female lead freeze to death? Maya almost cried when she saw him. She stepped forward, eyes bright with shock. It's been a long time, she said. Are you okay? Ethan pulled me slightly behind him. Whether I'm okay or not has nothing to do with you. Maya flinched. Then her eyes moved past him and landed on me. The expression that crossed her face was strange. Surprised. Then faintly bitter. She looked at Ethan again. One of your friends told me you were keeping a cat. Is this the cat? A hot, ugly feeling rose in my chest. Cat? Pet? I didn't say anything. One of the men beside her laughed outright. Maya, is this the rich ex-boyfriend who dumped you? He looks like he'd snap in half in a real fight. The other smirked. Bet he survived this long by hiding behind stored supplies. Ethan's voice turned flat. You're not welcome here. Leave. His arm tightened around my shoulder. And Sienna is my girlfriend. Not a pet. Maya raised an eyebrow, then looked at me with a polite smile that somehow made me feel even worse. Hi, I'm Ethan's ex. Maya Collins. I opened my mouth. Ethan cut in before I could say anything. Sienna, go upstairs. I'll deal with them. The smile faded from Maya's face. Ethan, she said softly, even if you hate me, can you at least let us stay one night? The temperature's dropping. The comments rushed in again. It's okay. The female lead will explain the misunderstanding. Once she tames the male lead, I can't wait to watch the side character kneel and bark. But after Maya's mother died, she never came back to find him, did she? She seemed to be doing just fine. I lowered my eyes and lightly tugged at Ethan's sleeve. Maybe, let them stay the night. He looked at me, hesitating. But I had seen where those men kept their hands. Right above their holsters. If we refused, I was scared they'd force their way in. And whatever Ethan was, I still didn't want him hurt. Fine, he said at last. One night. Stay in the living room. Don't go upstairs. Maya nodded. I'm starving, Ethan. Could we have some food? I answered for him. The kitchen has instant noodles. Help yourselves. Her gaze rested on my face for one brief moment. Then she smiled. Thank you. She introduced the two men as Ryan and Carter. Ethan put his arm around me and steered me toward the stairs. We're going up. At the turn in the staircase, I glanced back. Maya stood exactly where we had left her, looking up at us. There was something in her eyes that made my chest tighten. Not anger. Not exactly. Something sadder. Something unfinished. In the bedroom, Ethan moved to sit beside me on the bed. I shifted away. He stared. Then he scooted closer. I shifted again. He reached out quickly and caught me before I slid right off the mattress, then pulled me into his lap with a quiet laugh that warmed my skin against my will. Sienna, he said in a low, coaxing voice, are you jealous? No. The comment scoffed. What right does the side character have to be jealous? The female lead and male lead were together since high school. They only broke up after college. How does a few months compare to years like that? My chest hurt worse. Ethan rested his chin on my shoulder and spoke softly against my neck. I can explain. She really is my ex, but that's all she is now. I covered his mouth with my hand. I believe you. He kissed my palm. My ears went hot instantly, and I tried to pull away. He caught my wrist and wouldn't let go. The room changed all at once. The air grew sticky. Warm. Dangerous. His forehead touched mine. His breath mixed with mine. And then, a knock came at the door. Ethan? Maya's voice sounded small this time. I burned my hand with hot water. Do you have any medicine? He frowned. No. Silence. Then, even quieter, it really hurts. Her footsteps faded. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. 10 minutes later, she knocked again. Ethan, she said through the door, I need to talk to you. Just 5 minutes. Ethan's arms tightened around me. I felt the hesitation in the way he held me. So I patted his hand and forced myself to say, maybe you should go. Just give her medicine if she needs it. He looked down at me strangely, then touched my hair. I'll make it clear, he said. Wait for me. I nodded. The door closed. The second it did, I pulled the blanket over my head and started crying. Tears soaked into the sheet. The comments started screaming. The female lead threw herself into the male lead's arms. They finally talked it out. So sweet. He should forgive her now, right? I yanked the blanket tighter. Then the comments abruptly changed. Wait. What's going on? Why did the male lead push the female lead away? That was supposed to be the reunion scene. He said it's all in the past and told her to keep her distance so his girlfriend won't misunderstand. Must be because the side character seduced him. Whatever. Tomorrow the female lead gets hurt and the male lead will reveal his true identity to save her. The bedroom door opened. Strong hands pulled the blanket down. Ethan looked at my swollen, tear-red eyes and panicked instantly. Sienna? Why are you crying? I sniffed and said nothing. He gathered me into his arms so fast I nearly bounced. I told her everything, he said desperately. If you still don't like her, I'll kick them all out right now. I grabbed his wrist. They have guns. A flicker of contempt crossed his eyes. I'm not scared of. I looked up at him. He coughed, suddenly avoiding my gaze. I'm joking. I almost laughed in spite of myself. The next morning, they were still there. Ethan went downstairs, saw them sitting in the living room, and his face darkened at once. Why aren't you gone yet? Maya stood up slowly. We got separated from the main survivor group. Could you shelter us a little longer? Once we find them again, we'll leave. When he didn't respond, she added quietly, my mother was good to you once. The comments jumped all over that too. The male lead always had an older brother, so he was ignored growing up. It was the female lead's mother who remembered his birthdays and knit him a scarf. Yeah, and he gave them money. A scarf doesn't compare to $2 million. It's the thought that counts. What scarf costs $2 million? Ethan's impatience sharpened. Maya, I don't owe you anything. Her face went white. One of the men, Carter, shot to his feet. The hell do you mean by that? Ryan stood too, voice edged with threat. Maya still cares about you. We've been protecting her out there. With us, you might actually live long enough to see the main group. Otherwise, his gaze flicked toward me with open mockery. How long do you think your little pet cat is going to survive? Something savage flashed through Ethan's eyes. Sienna is not a pet. The way he said it made everyone fall silent for one beat. Then Maya narrowed her eyes and stared at him carefully. Like she was testing something. Like she was no longer sure what he was. We turned to go upstairs. We had only made it to the first step when Ethan's hand clamped painfully around mine. His back went rigid. Maya was using her psychic ability on him again. Ethan, she called. What just happened? I stepped in front of him and smiled without smiling. What do you think happened? We got a little tired last night. Want details? Her face changed instantly. The comments exploded. Shut up, side character. Actually, she's not wrong. They are boyfriend and girlfriend. Why does the female lead look betrayed? Did Maya test him with her ability? Does she suspect he's a zombie? Carter muttered a curse. Ryan pulled Maya's arm. Maya, let's go. Screw this place. She didn't move. She looked only at Ethan, eyes glassy with tears. You said you'd wait for me, she whispered. You texted me. I came back and explained everything. So why? Ethan was silent for a long moment. Then he said, very quietly, Maya, nobody lives in the past forever. He paused. And you were doing just fine abroad, weren't you? His eyes didn't leave hers. I went looking for you. And you told someone you didn't know any idiot named Ethan Cole. The comment stuttered. The female lead said what? That has to be a misunderstanding. Explain it. But Maya only stood there with tears running down her face. What do you think I am? She asked. I didn't answer. I just helped Ethan upstairs. His hand was shaking. The second we were back in the bedroom, he dragged me into his arms and held me so tight I could barely breathe. Let's leave tonight, he said. I looked up. Why? He lowered his head to meet my eyes. She has psychic powers, he said quietly. I'm scared she might control me and make me hurt you. And those two men have weapons. If anything happens to you. So that was it. He hadn't agreed to let them stay because he still cared about Maya. He had done it because he was afraid I might get hurt. I cupped his face and kissed him hard on the mouth. Then we'll leave after dark. His eyes lit up. Can I get one more kiss? I leaned in. And then everything went black. When I woke up, my head felt like it had been split open. The world was shaking. Not literally. The car was. I was in the back seat of an SUV, jostling over broken pavement while ruins flashed by outside the window. Ryan turned around from the front passenger seat and grinned at me. Your little catnap was impressive. Slept almost a full day. My hand flew to the back of my head. Pain. A lot of it. What happened? I croaked. Where's Ethan? Maya was driving. She glanced at me through the rearview mirror. I don't know, she said. I only got you out. Only got me out? The comments were already racing in front of me again. Holy hell. So the female lead didn't reconcile with the male lead at all. When she threw herself at him crying, she was actually checking his body temperature. And those two guys? They were acting from the minute they sensed a zombie in the house. They just couldn't tell whether it was the male lead or the side character. So they played along until they confirmed it. And then the female lead abducted the side character and ran. I sat up so fast my vision blurred. You left Ethan there? Ryan spread his hands helplessly. Maya said he was a zombie. He tilted his head at me. Were you being held there against your will? Was he keeping you as food? Carter turned around too and, incredibly, looked almost apologetic. If we said anything rude before, don't take it personally. And if you do take it personally, he puffed his chest out like an idiot. You can hit me twice to get even. Then, with total seriousness, he added, was he fattening you up? My grandma used to raise pigs. Same principle. I stared at him. No, I said flatly. He would never hurt me. Maya's gaze in the mirror sharpened. You knew he was a zombie? I know he's my boyfriend. Her voice dropped. You know he's a zombie and you still stayed with him? Do you want to die? I clenched my fists in my lap. Ethan has never hurt me. Not once. I trust him. Ryan looked horrified. Are you crazy? He's a high-level zombie. He can think. He can talk. That makes him worse, not better. I turned to Maya. You were his ex, don't you trust him either? She was silent for a few seconds before she answered. In the apocalypse, plenty of people have been killed by someone who loved them. Anger burned behind my eyes. You already abandoned him once, I shot back. And now you're abandoning him again. She slammed on the brakes so hard all of us jolted forward. Sienna, are you insane? Ryan twisted around in his seat. Staying alive isn't enough for you? We finally got you out. Carter nodded grimly. And if you go back now, he might not even still be there. You could get bitten before you even find him. Slowly, my clenched fingers loosened. They were right about one thing. If Ethan wasn't there anymore, going back alone would just get me killed. But then what? Where was I supposed to go? I sank back against the seat and stared numbly out the window. Dusk deepened around us. Ruins. Empty road. Overgrown medians. The occasional distant howl of a zombie. After a long time, Maya said quietly, how did you two meet? I hesitated. Then I told her. The power outage. Borrowing food. His confession. The apocalypse. The way he kept going out to bring me things to eat. When I finished, she was silent long enough that I thought she might not respond at all. Then she gave a tiny laugh. If this weren't the end of the world, she said, eyes on the road, I might have wished you both well. I turned to look at her. After a moment, I said carefully, back then, what happened between you two? The corner of her mouth twisted. There wasn't really a misunderstanding, she said. There was a difference in power. That's what happened. I waited. She took a breath. I accepted $20 million from his father and left the country. I stared. My mother was sick, she continued. His father said if I refused to leave, every hospital in the city would turn her away. My anger faltered. I donated every dollar Ethan gave me, she said. All of it. In his name. I blinked. I came back and explained. But by then, she swallowed. By then he had already become what he is. The comments rolled in. So the money the male lead gave the female lead all got donated? That actually makes the female lead pretty clear-headed. Back then the male lead still wasn't strong enough to fight his family. Not taking the money would have ruined her mother. I looked out into the darkening road and didn't know what to say. So it wasn't that Ethan hadn't loved her. And it wasn't that she hadn't loved him. They just lost. That was all. We stopped for the night at an abandoned roadside diner. Ryan and Carter went in first with their guns and cleared 2 zombies out before waving us inside. When I climbed out of the SUV, my legs buckled from sitting too long. Carter caught my elbow quickly. You good? I'm fine. But the moment I straightened, a chill skated over the back of my neck. A feeling. Sharp. Watching. I turned around fast. Nothing. Broken cars. Empty street. Dark windows. No one. Carter urged me toward the entrance. Come on. If we attract a horde, none of us are sleeping. Inside, Maya handed me a blanket from her backpack. It gets cold at night. I took it quietly. Thanks. Carter announced he was going to check the kitchen for water and disappeared around the corner. The comments flashed so violently I nearly dropped the blanket. This diner isn't safe. There's a zombie hidden above the kitchen cabinets. The male lead was supposed to save the female lead here. But he's not here now. I opened my mouth to shout a warning, but before I could, the kitchen erupted with swearing. We all ran in. Carter stood frozen in place, gun up, staring at the ceiling. A child-sized zombie was clinging upside down to the plaster above him, maybe 5 or 6 years old, tiny teeth bared as it prepared to lunge at his neck. Damn it. Carter yelped. Why is there a kid one too? His hands were shaking so badly he couldn't fire. It's too small. I can't shoot a kid. He shoved the gun at Ryan. Ryan shoved it right back. I can't either. The little zombie leaned farther down. Then Maya shut her eyes, and a pulse of invisible force shot out. The child zombie dropped to the floor in a heap, curled up trembling. And then we heard a thin, soft voice. Mommy. All of us froze. Ryan's eyes bulged. It talks. Carter looked sick. Did we just kill its parents? The comments answered before anyone else could. Not its parents. Just 2 random adults. Its parents abandoned it here to lure zombies away while they escaped with the younger son. This kid is a high-level zombie too. A dangerous one. The little zombie slowly pushed itself up, filthy face lifted, bright eyes searching the room. Then it looked right at me, tilted its head. Mommy? The comments lost their minds. Wrong mom, kid. Why is this weirdly cute? I crouched slowly, making my voice as gentle as I could. I'm not your mommy. Its mouth wobbled. Then it started to cry while pointing at Carter. Mommy, that uncle hit me. Carter flailed his arms. I did not. I just kicked once because it popped out and scared me. Maya's expression hardened. She was about to use her psychic ability again. I caught her wrist. Wait. Let me try. She frowned. Sienna. It's a zombie. I know. I looked at the child's face. Scared. Hungry. Watchful. Lonely. And something inside me cracked open. When I was little, I said quietly, I was the kid who got left behind too. No one spoke. So I did. My parents only wanted my younger brother. They sent me to distant relatives and mailed a little money at first. Then even that stopped. I became unpaid help in their house. If I ate too much, I got yelled at. Sometimes worse. Sometimes they locked me up like an animal. The diner fell silent. I ran away the second I was old enough. Then I looked back at the child zombie. That expression in its eyes. That mix of fear and wanting. I knew it too well. Slowly, I held out my hand. The little zombie stared at it for a long time. Then, very carefully, it reached out and touched one fingertip to mine. Carter inhaled sharply. Ryan slapped a hand over his mouth. I smiled. What's your name? It seemed to think hard. As if the answer had been buried somewhere deep and dusty. Finally it whispered, Luna. Maya stood beside me, watching with a conflicted look. If it attacks anyone. It won't, I said. From my pocket, I pulled a wet wipe and gently cleaned the dirt off Luna's face. She stood perfectly still and let me. When I finished, I pinched the corners of her mouth into a tiny smile and turned her toward Maya. Luna, say hi to Aunt Maya. Luna blinked. Then her eyes lit up. Auntie. For the first time, Maya's face softened. Only for a second. But it did. Then she turned away and went to prepare our sleeping area. That night, we built a fire in the middle of the diner. Ryan took first watch. Carter sat in a corner, sneaking uneasy glances at Luna, who was wrapped in the blanket Maya had given her. Then Luna suddenly toddled over to me, shoved part of the blanket into my arms and announced, that uncle says the kitty is cute. She pointed straight at Carter. He nearly launched himself into the ceiling. What? I did not say that. There isn't even a cat here. He fled into one of the old booths and slammed the door behind him. The comments cackled. This little zombie can read minds. Carter's thoughts got exposed on the spot. I stared at Luna. She blinked at me, innocent as moonlight. So that was her ability. Mind reading. I leaned close and whispered, what are you reading right now? Luna leaned right back and whispered in my ear, Mommy is wondering what I'm reading. I had to bite my lip to stop myself from laughing. This kid was dangerous. And adorable. Which honestly felt unfair. The next few days blurred together into a strange little life. I stayed with Maya's group while they searched for the main body of survivors. But something odd kept happening. Every time I rested alone, food would mysteriously appear beside me. A packet of crackers. A bottle of water. Half a sandwich wrapped in plastic. At first, I thought Carter had been leaving it for me. So I thanked him. More than once. I even shared half of what I found. He'd scratch his head and accept it with the baffled gratitude of a man who did not remotely understand how he had become generous in my eyes. Then Luna, who had zero respect for privacy or dignity, repeated his thoughts aloud one afternoon word for word. The kitty shared food with me. Does that mean she likes me? Carter went still. Then he ran. The comments practically convulsed. I'm crying. The male lead keeps secretly feeding his own girlfriend, and she thinks it's Carter. He's going feral in the shadows. He won't show up because he's scared she'll be afraid of his zombie identity. It was Ethan. Of course it was Ethan. Those weren't random supplies. He had been following me, feeding me, watching me, and for some reason that hurt almost worse than if he had just walked away. If he was close enough to leave food, then why wouldn't he come see me? I didn't fear him. I missed him so much it was becoming a physical ache. So I made a decision. If he wouldn't come out on his own, I'd force him. The next morning, I casually asked Luna, so, what do you think of Uncle Carter? Luna looked at him with grave concentration. He looks delicious. I pinched the bridge of my nose. That is not what I meant. Carter moved 3 full feet farther away from her. I started being nice to everybody. On purpose. I brought Carter water. He looked like I had proposed marriage. I helped Ryan reorganize supplies. He grinned at me with uncomplicated gratitude. I tucked a blanket over Maya when she fell asleep sitting up. When she woke later, she only looked at me for a long second and said nothing. Slowly, our group softened around the edges. It happened without any of us really noticing. Except there was always one thing I noticed. That feeling of being watched. It came more often. Closer. Like someone just out of sight, always there. Finally, one afternoon, I asked Carter to teach me how to use a gun. He blinked. Seriously? Yes. He spent half an hour showing me how to hold it, aim it, breathe with it. His hand hovered around my shoulder once or twice to correct my stance. I let him. That night, while we sat resting in a patch of overgrown roadside grass, Luna sneaked over and shoved a small bundle into my hands. It was a bouquet of wildflowers tied together with a blade of grass. I stared at it. Where did this come from? Luna leaned against my ear and whispered conspiratorially, a super pretty uncle gave it to me. The comments howled. The male lead is literally lying in the bushes pretending to be a corpse. He bribed the tiny zombie already. I looked around. A patch of grass a little way off was bent in a suspiciously unnatural way. I stood up. I'm going to collect some firewood. Maya handed me a knife. Be careful. Carter started to rise too, but I shook my head. Luna can come. She's enough. That, ironically, was completely true. Luna was terrifying in combat. I walked slowly toward the crooked patch of grass. 10 feet. 5. 3. No movement. I deliberately caught my foot on a branch and pitched forward. A hand shot out of the grass and caught my waist before I hit the ground. My heart slammed. Ethan. The second he realized it was me, he let go like he'd been burned and turned to run. You move and I'll kill you, I snapped. He froze. Then I threw my arms around him from behind and pressed my face into his back. You don't want me anymore? He went rigid. His voice shook when he answered. But I'm a zombie. I don't care. I held him tighter. Luna is a zombie too. Next to us, Luna covered her eyes with both hands. But she left giant gaps between her fingers. Oh, she said. Ethan turned slowly. His eyes were already red. Like he had been holding everything in for too long. Then he crushed me into his arms so hard I could barely breathe. I missed you so much, he choked out. So much. Sienna, I missed you so much. My own eyes burned instantly. Then he pulled back just enough to look at me and immediately started crying harder. Why did you share my food with that idiot? I blinked. Why did you bring other men water? Why did you tuck that blanket around her? Why did you ask Carter to teach you how to shoot? His hand was on your shoulder for 30 minutes. 30. He sounded completely deranged. The comments broke. This is what we're doing now? Jealous zombie boyfriend meltdown? Meanwhile, the villain already captured the female lead. He wants her psychic power. The main survivor group is in danger. My head snapped up. What? Ethan was still hiccuping through his tears when I shoved him away and grabbed his arm. We have to go back. He brightened instantly. Okay. Then he looked at the direction I was running and shouted, wrong way, Sienna. Not wrong. I sprinted toward the road. When we reached the SUV, the scene there made my blood go cold. Carter was lying on the ground unconscious. Luna walked over and nudged him with one foot. Still alive. I dropped beside him, checking quickly. No bite marks. Just a deep cut on his arm, bleeding through his sleeve. I turned to Ethan in panic. He pouted. I'm not that sensitive to blood. I don't want to bite him. I exhaled shakily. Luna crouched beside Carter's wound and stared at it with unnerving focus. No, I said at once. She looked up. One lick. No. A tiny sniff? No. She pouted and wandered off, only to circle back and kick Carter again for no reason. Then she tilted her head and said thoughtfully, he's thinking about setting off fireworks with the kitty. Ethan straightened so fast it was almost violent. I'll kill him. He did not, in fact, kill him. Because I made him carry Carter into the SUV instead. On the drive, Carter slowly came to. The second he saw Ethan in the car, he nearly launched himself out the door. He's here? Why is he here? Nobody answered. A second later, he blurted, where are Maya and Ryan? I told him what little I knew and asked, what happened? His face darkened. Logan Frost. The name meant nothing to me. He used to be part of our group, Carter said. Maya kicked him out after he deliberately used civilians as bait for zombies. I went cold. He came back with people. Took Maya and Ryan. Do you know where? I asked. He shook his head. Then I turned to Ethan. What if we ask zombies? He looked at me once, then reached casually out the window, grabbed a wandering zombie by the collar as we rolled past, and gave it an order. The comments were delighted. That works. They haven't gone far. A blizzard is coming, so the villain took everyone to District 13 Hospital. Most of the nearby survivors are trapped there too. A little while later, the zombie returned, howling and pointing insistently toward the east. Ethan translated with total seriousness. He says a bunch of people went into the old hospital. I didn't even bother asking how he understood that. At this point, honestly, my standards had shifted. We drove. By the time the hospital came into view, night had fallen hard. There were armed lookouts at the entrance. I looked at our little team and tried not to laugh hysterically. Luna could pass near a zombie crowd easily. Carter darkened his face with ash to hide how pale he was. Ethan, annoyingly, just looked human. Too human. So Ethan and I half-carried Carter to the gate while Luna slipped away into the shadows. A guard blocked us at once. Stop. I pointed frantically at Carter's arm. Please help. My friend's hurt. The guard glanced at the wound. Knife injury? Some masked raiders robbed our supplies, I said breathlessly. They cut him when he fought back. The guard narrowed his eyes at Carter suspiciously. Then, very discreetly, Ethan pinched Carter's wound. Hard. Carter let out a scream so heartfelt it almost impressed me. I'm dying. It hurts so bad. The comments choked. The male lead is absolutely cheating. I shot Ethan a glare. He blinked innocently. The guard waved us through. Another one muttered under his breath. Why bring back a cripple? The first lowered his voice. Even the injured can be used as bait. Ethan and I exchanged one look. Inside, what I saw made my hands curl into fists so tight my nails bit skin. Maya was tied to a chair. Ryan was on the ground nearby, bruised and injured. A man stood over them smiling with the kind of face that looked wrong even before he did anything. Logan Frost. He was speaking to Maya almost tenderly. Maya, your psychic power is too valuable to waste. Draw in 10 zombies, and maybe I'll spare him. Then he jammed an electric baton into Ryan's side. Ryan convulsed with a muffled groan. Carter's eyes went red with rage. Maya clenched her teeth so hard I thought they might crack. Stop, she said. Fine. I'll do it. She closed her eyes and began using her ability. Beside me, Ethan's expression shifted. A few minutes later, Maya opened her eyes and glanced, very subtly, toward the entrance. A second later, a handful of zombies shambled into view outside. Logan counted with a frown. 9, he said. Still one short. Then one of the guards burst in. Bad news. There are hordes coming from every direction. The survivors imprisoned inside started panicking immediately. Logan raised his gun. Anyone moves, they die. The room fell silent. The comments flashed. The villain wants to use the female lead to experiment on zombie control. He gathered these survivors as bait. And then, the ventilation shaft above us crashed open. A tiny shape dropped straight down onto Logan's shoulders. Luna. She hit him with a feral shriek and slammed him to the floor. Ethan stood up slowly. Sorry, he said. The 10th one is here. All at once, chaos broke. Carter and I started ushering survivors toward the side hallways. At that exact moment, the front doors burst inward. Zombies flooded into the lobby. My heart climbed into my throat. And then stopped. Because they didn't attack anyone. Not one person. They simply formed a ring around Logan. Silent. Waiting. Logan stared up at Ethan with genuine horror. Who are you? He demanded. How can you make them obey you? The comments were beside themselves. Zombie King supremacy. Villain, your father is here. Logan's face twisted. Then, with terrifying speed, he grabbed Luna by the throat and hauled her up into the air. Her little legs kicked wildly. His body began to change. Muscles swelling. Skin darkening to a dead, blue-gray tone. His clothes ripped as he expanded into something grotesque and huge. The comments flashed again. Wait, when did the villain become a zombie? That wasn't in the original plot. Then again, he was obsessed with power. Of course he'd turn himself if it made him stronger. I lunged forward too late. Luna's face was already turning red. Then electricity cracked through the room with a violent snap. Ryan, who somehow had gotten back up, drove the stun baton straight into Logan's side. Logan convulsed. His grip loosened. Luna dropped. Carter shouted, Ryan, you beautiful maniac. Luna rolled across the floor and darted behind me. But Logan had gone fully feral. His men surged into motion too. The whole room exploded into a fight. Carter and Ethan both charged straight at Logan. A deep, inhuman growl tore from Ethan's throat. Logan froze for one stunned second. Then his eyes widened. You, he choked out. You're the Zombie King? Ethan did not dignify that with an answer. He just kicked him so hard Logan flew through a wall. Literally through it. Into the next room. Logan got back up. He tried to fight. But under Ethan's pressure, he moved like an old man underwater. Slow. Heavy. Pathetic. Ethan walked over, grabbed his head, and slammed it into the floor once. Twice. 3 times. The comments had never loved anyone more. The male lead is basically a human tank. The villain looks strong, but is completely useless in front of the Zombie King. Logan, dizzy and half-smashed, groped blindly across the floor. His hand found a gun. He lifted it and aimed straight at Ethan. Die. I did not think. I moved. I threw myself in front of Ethan just as the gun fired. The shot rang through the room. I shut my eyes. Waited for pain. It didn't come. When I opened them, the bullet was hanging crookedly in the air for one impossible second before it veered sideways and buried itself in the wall. Maya stood not far away, pale as paper. Her lips had gone bloodless, but she was smiling. The comments screamed. The female lead leveled up. She just controlled a bullet with psychic power. That's insane. I ran to her as her knees buckled. You're crazy, I snapped, catching her. Do you know what overusing psychic power can do to your brain? She leaned against me, breathing hard. And you're one to talk, she muttered. You jumped in front of a bullet. Before I could answer, Logan saw Ethan's attention split and lunged again. This time straight for me. Carter tossed me his gun. I raised it with both hands, aimed at Logan's leg the way he had taught me, and fired. He dropped to one knee with a howl. Ethan came up behind him, grabbed his head, and shouted, Sienna, close your eyes. I did. A second later, there was a horrible sound. I didn't open them. Warm fingers covered my eyes from the front. Maya, don't look, she said quietly. When the noise stopped, the entire room seemed to exhale. I lowered my hands. Logan was no longer moving. Maya's body sagged against me. I caught her and helped her sit. Only then did I realize she was shaking all over. Luna wandered over, crouched beside her, and peered up into her face. Then she reached out and gently patted Maya's hair. Auntie, she asked in her tiny voice, does it hurt? Maya blinked. Luna tilted her head and added very earnestly, Auntie pretty. For the first time since I had met her, Maya laughed without any bitterness in it. You weird little zombie, she said. Not far away, Ethan was wiping blood off himself with the kind of intense panic I would normally associate with a man trying to defuse a bomb. He wiped his hands, then his sleeves, then his hands again. He stood a full 10 feet away from me, clearly miserable. He wouldn't come close. I walked over and hugged him first. He went rigid. I'm dirty, he stammered. I rose up on my toes and kissed his cheek. You're not. Across the room, Maya watched us. Something passed through her face. Relief, maybe? Or acceptance. Then she looked away. A little later, when the survivors had calmed down and the hospital was no longer one bad breath away from collapse, she finally spoke to Ethan again. When I went abroad, she said, your father had people watching me the whole time. He made it very clear he wouldn't let someone like me come back into your life. She drew a breath. So the things I said then, they weren't what I meant. The comments were divided now. The former main couple had it too easy before. The first real obstacle destroyed them. Maybe the female lead is better off on her own. Maybe this is her independent queen arc. Ethan was silent for a long time. Then he said, I know. Maya stared at him. You knew. He didn't answer. He just reached for my hand instead. We left the hospital with the zombie horde trailing behind us in eerie silence. Before we went, Ethan gave them one command. No biting people anymore. The zombies all nodded in unison like obedient soldiers. I decided not to think too hard about that. It was easier for my sanity. A year later, I heard there was a large base in the south where humans and zombies were actually learning to coexist. Growing food. Building homes. Starting over. One afternoon, a zombie mail carrier showed up with a letter. It was from Maya. She wrote that the southern base was thriving and asked if I wanted to visit sometime. I wrote back at once. Our side is doing well too. Wanna come see ours? I was bent over the table finishing the letter when Ethan leaned over my shoulder from behind. Whose is that? Maya's. He wrinkled his nose. I turned to look at him. Are you still jealous? He buried his face against my neck and breathed me in like he was trying to live off it. No, he murmured. I just want to eat you. I elbowed him. He laughed. Outside, Luna was chasing two lesser zombies around the yard while Ryan shouted that she was teaching them bad habits, and Carter swore he was not, under any circumstances, babysitting a telepathic zombie child ever again. The world was still strange. Still broken. Still dangerous. But it was ours. And maybe that counted for something. I thought that was the end. I was wrong. Because if you really want to understand how a zombie king ended up crying over instant noodles and hiding in bushes with wildflowers, then you have to go back to the beginning. To Ethan. To before the world ended. To before he became mine.
The day Maya left, I had the worst fight of my life with my family. My father looked at me like I was dirt and said, "What are you without the Cole family?" Nothing. I told him then I wanted nothing. Not his money. Not his house. Not his name. I moved into a rundown apartment complex because it was cheap enough to pay for without asking anyone for help. It smelled vaguely like damp concrete and old takeout. The hall lights flickered. The elevator got stuck once a week. It was perfect. I thought I could start over there. I thought if I cut everything else away, I might be able to survive what was left of me. I was wrong. The night I almost ended things, I had a knife in my hand. I had already pressed the blade against my wrist. Then someone started pounding on my door. Fast. Urgent. Panicked. I froze, shoved the knife under my pillow, and opened the door. A girl stood there in pajamas with messy hair and a face full of apology. She said, pointing to the apartment next door. My power went out. Can you help me? I don't know how to fix it. That was Sienna. I stared at her for 2 seconds and said, okay. I fixed the breaker. She stood there watching me like I had performed actual magic. Then she brightened and said, did you eat yet? I'll buy dinner. I didn't even get a chance to refuse. She had already pulled out her phone and started ordering delivery. 15 minutes later, she marched right into my apartment carrying takeout containers like she belonged there. Wow, she said, looking around. Your place is so clean. Do you live alone? I nodded. She made a sympathetic noise and then kept eating. I remember looking at her and thinking that she had absolutely no sense of boundaries. I also remember thinking it was the funniest thing I'd seen in months. That meal gave me stomach problems for 2 days. She had ordered something violently spicy. I can't handle spice. I ate it anyway because she was sitting there looking so pleased with herself. On the third day, she knocked again. This time she was holding 2 takeout boxes. I ordered too much. Help me. I stared at the food, remembered the hell I had suffered, and said after a long pause, I'll cook. Her eyes lit up. You can cook. A little. That was how it started. After that, I cooked for her all the time. Her name was Sienna Hart. She lived next door. She wasn't picky. She would eat almost anything. And somehow, no matter how questionable my cooking turned out, she never got sick from it. If I ate it myself, there was at least a 50% chance I'd regret everything. One day I finally asked her, is it really not that bad? She thought about it seriously. It's edible, she said, which already makes you better than me. I can burn ramen. Then she smiled. And I laughed. I hadn't meant to. But once I did, she laughed too. Her eyes curved into crescents like moonlight. Little by little, I started noticing things. No family ever came to see her. No friends called. She went to work, came home, ordered takeout, or came to my place and ate whatever I made. Always alone. So one day I asked, what about your parents? She went still for half a beat, then smiled. They don't want me. She said it like it was a joke, like it didn't hurt. That smile got under my skin more effectively than anything else she ever did. Then she added, cheerful as ever. But honestly, I'm happy now. I can eat whatever I want and nobody tells me what to do. She was smiling the whole time, like sunlight in human form. I think anyone who got close to her would have been drawn in by that light. I was. When I confessed, I was so nervous I thought I might actually stop breathing. I said, Sienna, what if I cook for you every day? She blinked. Then she threw herself into my arms and said, okay. For one full second, I felt like the luckiest person alive. And then the apocalypse came. I got bitten on the first bad night. I burned with fever until I thought my bones would crack open. When I woke, I was different. I could still think, still speak, still control myself. But I knew I wasn't human anymore. I didn't bite anyone. I didn't want to. But I was terrified she would find out. So I lied. I told her I had access to a secure villa with strong defenses. I took her there. And once I had her with me, safe and hidden, a thought took root inside me that I never said out loud. I wanted to keep her, just there, with me, in that quiet house. No other people, no danger, no one to take her away. I knew it was selfish. I knew it was wrong. But I had already lost too much. I couldn't lose her too. The strangest part was that even after all of it, even after I became a monster, she still chose me. Maybe that was why I loved her enough to cry over chips. Maybe that was why I would have followed her forever. Maybe that was why, in the end, the world didn't really end for me at all, because she was still in it.